All right, welcome everyone. I'm excited to get started. This is a great topic, and we have lots of great people joining in tonight. I already saw Deborah Atchison joining in, so welcome. And I know that this is a topic that really has, oh, welcome from India. You know, I would love to know where you guys are coming from. So if you could put that in the chat, that would be wonderful. Perfect. Yeah, I see you guys joining in. I see, let's see, quite a few. Yeah. So, okay, California, Kenny, Modesto. I got married, for the person coming from Modesto, I got married in Lodi. So I totally know where that's at. Welcome, Atlanta, Georgia, El Salvador, New York. That's great. Maryland, Illinois. This is wonderful. Thank you guys for joining in tonight. I'm going to try to cram all of this information in 1 hour's time. India, wow, you guys that are joining in from Jordan, I really appreciate you coming in because I know that your time zones are pushing you into the wee hours in the morning. So thank you so much for coming in. Linda, welcome, Linda. And feel free to keep this chat going. Now, if you also notice, I have Q&A open. So if you want to go ahead and ask questions along the way, at the end, I'll come back and I'll make sure to answer all your questions. And we're going to be talking about a topic that is kind of long overdue. This is something that I get probably the most requests from is what alternative is there out there for Aurasma / HP Reveal, which became HP Reveal later. HP bought out Aurasma and it just went downhill from there. I mean, it was already kind of, you know, it was finicky, but those glitches, I think most of us made it work, understanding that it was a free tool and it, you know, worked for a lot of what we were doing. And it was, for many of us, it was that first AR experience of what we understood AR to be. And certainly one of those tools that you can create your own content. So that was an exciting time of, you know, a lot of classrooms taking that and running with it. I remember hearing a lot of different school districts that would use it for their yearbooks. And so they had all this content that they had built up for years and had it even published that you can go in there and use these tools. And HP earlier in this year stopped the HP Reveal app. So in January, it went away. So there was a lot of kind of discussion as to what are my options, what's out there. And I know for me, I stopped using HP Reveal a long time ago just because it was inconsistent and just was more problematic than beneficial. And there were great tools out there that you can create content, but maybe took a little bit more time and expertise. But I am excited to share these tools. I officially just finally spilled the beans because I've been holding on to some of these for a little while because, and I'll share with you here at the end, my book is due to come out this year, hopefully. We're hoping to get this out here soon for the digital copy and then also the printed copy first of the year. So because of that, I have these tools that you're going to be learning about tonight are the very tools that I used in the book. So I've been really just kind of exploring with them, creating with them and learning kind of the pros and the cons along the way so that when I presented it back to you, it would be something that you didn't have to go back and do all the research on. So hopefully you'll walk away with at least one tool to go back and use and know kind of the pros and the cons. But I want you, if you're watching on your computer, that's ideal. If you happen to be on your computer, that's okay. We'll make it work, but it would be, you know, preferable if you actually had this set up on your computer watching here, but then had your phone ready to go because I'm going to have some apps to download for you along the way because I want you to see firsthand what this looks like. I know for myself, just talking about it and seeing somebody else present it may seem easy enough, but until you actually experience it yourself, it really doesn't hit home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you play with that and see kind of what it's like. But then in addition to that, I'm giving you a chance to kind of get the resources, know the tools, download the correct tools, but then also have all of the resources later to reference back to, including this webinar. So Here we go. I have a presentation for you guys. We're going to go through those slides. You're going to play a little bit, and then we will have a chance to talk here soon. So let me go ahead and set this up. And if you happen to be joining in, if anybody's watching on YouTube, then welcome and feel free to put any questions in the chat. I will definitely come back to that here at the end, and I will address those questions as well. So if you happen to be watching on YouTube, welcome and feel free to join the chat as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and screen share with you my presentation and get us started. Here we go. Okay, so using these tools here, we're going to be looking at some of the best ones in my view. There was some criteria that helped me establish what are the ones that are best to emphasize and try out. And then some other ones that are like, that's out there, but yet that's ridiculous. You know, it's either not made for educators and really intended more on the enterprise side of maybe corporations using it for some of their content, or really just people getting out there and trying out some new tools, but it hasn't really been established and created as a consistent platform. Now, I will tell you, in anything I ever share, I always feel like I have to, list this out first to get people familiar, but I feel like beta testing is always what we're doing because these tools are coming in pretty rapidly and adjusting and modifying pretty regularly as well. So as you're going through some of this, just realize your voice does matter. So what you communicate back to these developers about your tools, about their tools, they listen and they're eager and excited to hear your responses. So I think it's really important to know that these different companies are getting started and they want to hear how you're using it in the classroom. So make sure to tag them and communicate with them, as well as how they can adjust and modify their product to really suit your students in your classroom. So while we might look at some of these and there may be some that you're like, this works out good, but I wish it had this or that, this is a good time to communicate that because, all of these are really startup companies. Okay, so we're going to go through and look at a couple things. First off, I want to let you know that my website has this very blog about this very content that I'm going to go through on this webinar. I know that sometimes reading it is what you need. You need to process it that way. You also need to have the step-by-step instructions, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. But in that blog, I think it's really important to recognize that that is really a valuable resource for you, not just for this content, but for other content areas as well. So if you are able to get on there and subscribe, that would be ideal, just because you'll be informed about the different things that are coming out, the different, I have a lot of different things that are about to happen in the next few weeks, so I'm excited. I don't want to share too much, but I think it would be a great idea for you to subscribe, and if you're not already subscribed. As well as following me on social media. I try to post different things as well as just keeping people informed about some of the different tools out there. So some of the things that I learn or some of the things somebody else tags me in that I'll reshare because they're doing incredible things too. So just learning from that community is great. My name is spelled a little funky, so as long as you spell my name correctly, you should be able to find me on most social channels. Probably my most prominent social channel is going to be Twitter. So you'll find me also on Twitter doing the AR, VR, and EDU chat every Wednesday night during this time. So if you are here, this is the time we meet every single week just for 30 minutes. Now tonight's the exception because I'm doing the webinar, but otherwise we would typically be on Twitter having a conversation and kind of doing a little mini PD session. So that you're aware, I'd love for you guys to come out and share and join. And nobody's an expert. Nobody knows it all. Everybody's learning something new. This technology is changing every day. So to connect with people is such a benefit to you and your classroom, your students. So hopefully you'll stay connected to the community because they're just amazing. They're always posting just great stuff. All right, so tonight what you can expect to take away is that we're going to explore 5 different tools. And initially I was calling them apps, but you'll see why I changed that over to tools later on. We're also going to talk about some of the key features of each of these tools. What is it beneficial for? I'm actually going to go ahead and showcase some of those for you. So I'll come out of the presentation and show you what that looks like, just to give you an idea of how those work and the process for that. You'll also see those step-by-step directions, which are definitely on the blog, literally step by step, what button to click, what to type in, what to have, when to set up your account, all of that. We're going to view some augmented reality. So this is going to be that trigger-based AR that you're going to see. So when you see that augmented reality, the tools that you'll see available tonight, you can download them and then you can see and experience right in this presentation. And then we're also going to go through some Q&A. So I think that's going to be important for you to have those questions down. So I know you might ask some questions in the chat and maybe other people in the community can answer that as well. So feel free to do that. Otherwise, if you can post it in the Q&A, that really helps me to follow up with you to make sure we get those answers for everybody. We can address it all together. Okay. Ooh, that did not come through. Well, I do want to tell you that, let's see if it comes through when I am not in presentation mode. That's strange. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so tonight we're going to be learning a lot of different tools, and you're going to have a chance to experience it. I would love for you to post out there on social media using hashtag ARVR and EDU, some of the things that you're learning tonight so that you can share. Other people can learn from those tools as well. And then you can also build that community and connections with others. So one is, I will say that I'm going to be selecting a top social media post, and I'll be sending out my book, Learning Transported. Really, the foundation was discussed on, immersive technology, augmented and virtual reality. And what is it, how to use it, the benefits of it, some lessons that you can bring in. And one other thing that I'm going to be shipping out, so I'll sign that, send that out. And then I also want to share with you this Jumpstart guide that ISTE created based upon the book. And it has pretty much everything in here is like your cheat sheet of everything that would be of value in the book that you can really just use immediately. So it gives you some things to test out, and it also gives you some QR codes to download some apps, and it also has some lesson plans and different levels to cover. So definitely, this is a great resource. When they created it, I was really impressed when I got it in, how nice it turned out. And it really is a great supplement to have with the book, because, going through the book and writing notes is one thing, but to have it all in order in one solid place is, pretty easy to reference back to. So I will be shipping that out to a top social post tonight. So while the presentation is going on, if you can post something and share out something that you're learning that's going to be an inspiration for people to jump into this technology and use it, talk about your students, talk about how you can put this into practice and inspire other people to jump in and try this out too. All right. So tonight we're going to be doing 5 different tools. We're going to be looking at Arize. We're going to look at Arloopa. We're going to look at Assemblr and EyeJack. And then I don't know why this is happening. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but this is MyWebAR. So hopefully we're not seeing a lot of that in my images. This is strange, but so we're going to be looking at those 5 tools. We're going to go through them independently so that you can test this out and get familiar with it. So as we're looking for this is one of the things that I really took into account, is sometimes creating augmented reality and doing the most amazing things requires some pretty heavy duty technology. And if it requires technology that is just not in the classroom, I'm not going to be somebody that shares that. That's just not my passion. I like exploring it. I like playing with it, of course. But when it comes down to it, the actual practical application of that in the classroom is not realistic. We just don't have those tools. So what you'll find tonight is that I'm covering those tools that are really accessible for most classrooms, the devices that you already have. I'm looking for the technology that you can make maybe on different platforms and the best ways to create that. Now, what you'll notice tonight is a lot of the tools, I'm starting off with the desktop version. So I'm looking at it through creating on the desktop, but I will tell you, there's a tool that I haven't shared out yet because it has not been released yet. So it's kind of still very much that beta testing mode that hasn't even been published yet, but that one is to come. And I certainly will share that out here very soon when that's finally released, and that will be app-based in the creation. So most of what you'll see is going to be creating on your computer, on a MacBook, on a PC, on a Chromebook. So having access to that is going to be key, and pretty often that's what we have access to in the classroom already. So where are we going to start? We're going to be looking at the process of doing this is creating a trigger image. A trigger image is an image similar to the concept of a barcode. And that's going to be something that you can, when your phone detects that trigger image within the correct app, then it knows what to put on top of it. It picks it up like it is a barcode, and it's identifying to your computer in your device that this is what is occurring. So it really is more of an activator, that trigger image. So some of the important aspects that you want to have is it is high in contrast with those colors. Lighting does play a role. And if you're already thinking, well, Jamie, I do a lot of AR and I don't even use a trigger image anymore. I want to tell you, there is a ton of different applications out there to create content without trigger images. So don't get me wrong, I love that technology, but there's still a need. Teachers are still wanting to have access to the content to create with trigger images. So what I mean by that is some of the latest technology allows for you to put augmented reality on your floor, on your desk, on your hand. It stays in the confines of your room. It's identifying and tracking your space. It's picking up the lighting. It's doing some pretty incredible things. And that is, I could share a ton of tools that do that right now. But for the trigger image to really kind of take over that Aurasma / HP reveal that has been used in the classroom for a long time, I think that's where we can use this trigger-based augmented reality. The benefit of that is that typically this technology is available even on older devices. So if you have a device that doesn't function with the newer technology, I'll reference as AR Kit or AR Core, depending on iOS or Android. But that later technology, if you have devices that don't function with that, this is a great way to still supplement this augmented reality for our classrooms. Some of the things that you can layer on top of it using augmented reality can be as simple as a video or an image, or you can load up a 3D object. It could even be an animated 3D object. So a lot of these platforms will let you create content on top of it, and it's pretty cool. So I think it will be a great way for you to learn and allow your students to create some pretty awesome content, and it'd be flexible enough for what you're looking for different lessons. Selecting the right tool, you're going to want to look at, what current devices do you have available today? So if you are stuck with devices that, don't function with the latest AR, then this is perfect. And if you're looking at, maybe you have access to a computer lab, but not so much mobile devices, well, typically it's our student devices that they're able to explore and see this. Maybe it's your device. Maybe it's a set of devices for the classroom to be able to experience. So one of the questions I get a lot is, hey, we have Chromebooks. How do we make AR on our Chromebook and view AR on our Chromebook? And that is possible. Absolutely. Everything I'm going to show you tonight, most of it is going to be available on Chromebooks. But the problem is viewing it is super awkward unless you have the right Chromebook. So that right Chromebook has to function with that later technology. It has to have a forward-facing and a rear-facing camera. It will have to have access to Google Play. So some of those, applications that you're going to need to download and experience can't be something that you're just viewing on your computer. Now, some things are possible to view. So I'm going to show you one thing today that is possible to view through your camera on your computer, but it is awkward. It's not seamless. It's possible, but it's not ideal. So just keep in mind that you'll want to use some sort of mobile tablet to be able to view the experiences for the best options and the possible options in most cases. So sharing the experience is the best part. So you get to publish it and you get to send it out. Now, some of the tools require kind of they have to go through and authenticate that it is valid and should be out there in the public. So there may be a waiting period. Some allow you to publish immediately. Oftentimes, if you have a paid for version, that is something that is kind of immediate. And for the free version, you could run into kind of the waiting game of waiting for somebody to finally publish it out there. All right, I am just getting some errors here. I'm going to try to refresh here. Okay, so the first one we're going to be looking at is Arize. So I'm going to go back and see if my content populates. There we go. All right. So inside of Arize, this is going to be web-based. And here is the application for you to download. So that QR code, you can grab your camera on your mobile device and you can scan either iOS or Google Play. I would just recommend putting your hand over which side you don't want to accidentally scan. Should bring you into either Google Play or the App Store. And inside of Arize, there's some I prefer to use Arize for certain circumstances, and I'll talk to you about some of those here in a second as we go through. So what I'm going to do is as you're downloading this, I'm going to show you what Arize looks like. And then we're going to come back, and when you have the app downloaded, I'm going to let you scan that image that you see right there to be able to see this come to life. Okay. So inside of Arize, you're going to have an account that you're going to create. And then you're also going to have your posts and different content that are going to be either published or rejected or possibly in review. Now, the beauty of this is that you can have 10 for free. Now, I've already used my 10. So unfortunately, I can't demo. I think it's going to give me an error for that. But I'll give it a shot. Okay, here we go. So without publishing this, the process that you're going to go through in creating this is pretty simple. It's going to want to know what you want to add to your page. So you're going to have a trigger image, and what do you want to use on top of that trigger image? Do you want to add a video? So this could be a video that you upload yourself. Now, what you're going to notice is some of the other platforms require YouTube. That is not an option all the time for you to upload your own content. It wants to pull from somebody else's, like YouTube. It doesn't want to store your videos on their servers. So I do like the fact that you can upload your own video in Arize. You can also upload your zip files. So that's your 3D models that you may have went and downloaded from Sketchfab or Google Poly. You could have already created your own content. Maybe you used a different, creator, 3D creator that you're then pulling in and uploading into your file. So you can have your own content here. If you are pulling from Sketchfab or Google Poly, it has that direct link. All it's doing is asking you then for you to give the link to that Sketchfab and the link to that Google Poly. So you're going to essentially link up the right experience on top of that. This is unique to these platforms. This is the only one out of the 5 that I'm going to show you today that actually do this. This is going to be a link to content. So instead of seeing augmented reality on top, you're actually going to see that when you view something, you can tap on that image on your screen, and then we'll automatically hyperlink you into a site. Now, I use that a couple times in my book to help support somebody to be able to get access to the resources without having to type in directly where to go. So I really like that feature. That's something for me that came in really beneficial, and everything I tried to research outside of Arize, I came up short. So I'm really excited that they had something like that, because anything else that had anything even close was a paid for, purely paid for. There was no free version at all. Unity is also a support here. So this is nice that if you have students that are actually working on 3D content and creating amazing content already, using Unity, you can actually pull in your projects through there. So I'm going to show you just kind of an example here. If I chose video, I'll say test here. And then my video file is going to be what I'm going to load on top. So I would have to go search for that video. And then I would also have to identify what my trigger image is. Once I identify what my trigger image is, then I can load that here. Both would populate. So even if it's a 3D object that I'm uploading or pulling in from Sketchfab, you're going to see some sort of preview window if in fact it's acceptable. Now, where you're going to find some problems is if it's not acceptable. If it's either, it's not a low poly, so it has essentially a lot of triangles inside of the experience and that 3D object. It's too much, right? Too much content for it to load up. That's possible. You can also run into it being locked and not available, or a paid for 3D object or animated object. So because of that, you may run into getting this error saying it's not possible. I've even run into sometimes some errors where it didn't populate when it should have, like those 3D objects, but it could have been that, again, that it was just too much. It was needed to kind of be scaled down to more of a low poly. And that's where you really find Google Poly being the best benefit, because you're going to find more of those low poly images that work well for this. But I would come over here and I would just populate, you know, a video. So I can say, I'm going to say postcard here. And then I'm going to give the trigger image. So you can see my little preview. It's telling me, yep, this is working pretty well. And I'm going to type in postcard here. And then I'm going to have the front of the postcard. So one of the keys in this is that you're going to have the chance to be able to edit this, and you can say, no, I want the whole image. Don't crop out anything. And then you would just say, yep, that's good. That's what I like. So it's going to layer that entire video on top of the entire image, or you can crop a little piece of that and just layer a piece of that on top. So if all I wanted to do was have that picture come to life, then I could have cropped out just that spot. And so when they scan that, that comes to life. And maybe they come over here and I have another part of this and they scan that and that comes to life, and so on. So I can have different parts of it all come into life based upon where I cropped. So I'm going to choose next. This is the last part, making sure you have a title, a description. This is really only available if you have a paid for version. So a lot of these tools that I'm showing you are not, they're reasonably priced. So if your school district decided to purchase and have access to this on a larger scale and doing more content, it really is something that is affordable on really all of these platforms. Some of them are really unreasonable because they're targeting companies. They're not necessarily targeting teachers working with students, but that, you know, that's something to consider when you're selecting the right tool as well. But public is what it would be, meaning anybody can scan it. So according to your students creating content, just keep in mind, if you have your students come here and use the free version, that is public for anybody else to scan. It will also show up in this AR gallery of content. So some of the later things that have been released, it's like a feed. So you'd be able to see that. Now, when I choose create post, it's probably going to tell me you can't do that. You've already hit your 10 limit, but it also will tell me that I'm going to have to wait for that to be approved. So Arize is one of those tools that you actually have to have them approve it before you can actually have it published. So the next tool that we're going to go to, but before we do that, I want to give you a chance to scan this. So if you have the Arize app, let's see if I can. There we go. I want to make sure that there's nothing covering that. If you have the Arize app, go ahead and try to scan that and see what you get. And I'll join you right now. So when the app first opens up, down at the bottom of your screen, you're going to select the camera. And you're going to, again, remember when I talked to you about that feed of content that you're going to see the things that were recently published and public. You can view all of that in AR depending on what that experience is, if you have the trigger image available. And then down at the bottom, you'll select the camera and it's going to populate your camera. If you haven't already authorized it, it's going to ask you. So everything you're going to see in AR is always going to ask you to have access to your camera. And that camera is key to any AR experience. So if you decline that, you're going to have to probably go back into your settings and make sure to authorize that. So once you're done, your camera is now up, and then go ahead and get this image in view. You'll see some circles. It will say loading, and it may take a few seconds depending on how quick your internet is. And then what you do, as long as you keep that image in view on our screen, then you should be able to see that experience come to life. And that's a fun little 3D drawing created in Tilt Brush and published on Google Poly. So although it says up at the top, Turkey by Jamie Donnelly, I created the AR experience, but I did not draw that. I would be so proud if I did. But our students can absolutely create this kind of content in virtual reality as well. So in that Tilt Brush application, this is possible. And this is what they published out there to Google Poly, which is pretty amazing. So hopefully you got a chance to see that firsthand. All right, I'm going to go back up here, presenting mode, and talk to you about our next tool. So this one's called Arloopa. And inside of Arloopa, I'm moving over some different windows here so I can get a better view. Arloopa is going to be very similar to Arize, and it's going to be web-based, just like Arize. So you're going to be able to go to a website and create this content on the web in your browser. The same thing applies within this application. There's a couple things that you won't get in this app that maybe you did in Arloopa or Arize, but not in Arloopa, and vice versa. So I'll show you kind of the difference and show you that the setting and how that works. And you can let me know, which one works out best for you and maybe even what you wish it would include. But what you want to do right now is make sure to scan that QR code for the Arloopa app and make sure you have that ready. And then I'm going to bring you over to Arloopa to show you what this looks like. All right. So when you first get in, I'll actually bring you back to that home screen here. When you first check out Arloopa, what you're going to find is kind of some of the content that's been created by their team. And you can download the app and you can see some of the experiences that have already been built, some of the things that they've built for other companies, some of the ways you can even see what an Apple Watch would look like on you, and see that real time come on. So there's some cool projects that they've been building. So inside of the Arloopa app, there are some great stuff. But over here, what you're going to notice is this Arloopa Studio. And so that's where you're going to go. You're going to make sure to sign in. Now, all of these, I'm just going to give you a heads up. You get signed out consistently. I always have to go back in and sign in. I mean, I could be working on a project and go back and double check and I've signed in again. Good security, especially for students, but one of those things just to keep in mind to always have maybe that saved for you. All right, so as we're looking at this is some of the projects that I'm working on. Again, I have up to 10 that I can do. And same concept, that free. And when you delete one, you can then add in a new one. So just keep in mind, if you have something that is okay to get rid of and maybe it was a test, then you can delete that and have the next option open. Again, if you want to, purchase this or have access to this as a campus or a classroom purchase, that's also possible. And a lot of this, I would highly recommend connecting with the company and talking to them through kind of what your hope is and expectations are, and where this is going to benefit kids. Helps you and it helps them. And getting in early kind of gives you some options maybe to have a voice in their product. All right. So here's some options that you have that you did not have in Arize. If you noticed, Arize purely required a trigger image. However, in Arloopa, you have the marker-based, markerless, and location-based. So marker-based is that trigger image that we were talking about earlier. Markerless means that I can create this great experience, and whoever goes to see it, all they're going to do is look down at their floor. They don't have to look at an image. They don't have to look at anything. This is literally you creating content, them going and experiencing it and placing it wherever they're at on any solid flat surface. So that's pretty cool. That's a great concept to be able to add in. You just want to keep in mind that will require that later technology, both on the Android and iOS side. So markerless is possible, and I actually created a couple markerless experiences. Location-based, I actually did this and then I deleted it because I had the same exact experience on the markerless. But the location-based is also possible, meaning if you wanted to create like a scavenger hunt, and that location-based will track the location, almost like leaving messages and spots that people then would find. And that message could be more than just text. It is augmented reality, 3D content, animated content, potentially. Could be videos, it could be flat pictures. So gives you some options to see how you want to use this. Now, since we're talking about trigger images tonight, we're going to use the trigger image. And you can add in some video content, again, like the one we were looking at with Arize. Or, so this is going to load on their server, but it's pulling directly from your device, which is tricky, right? For our Chromebook users, they're probably not going to have content on their Chromebooks. So YouTube would be the ideal in that case. If they have a video that they've built and created and they've loaded into YouTube, maybe that's where they want to pull it from. So that YouTube then is just linked. You would find the right link on YouTube. And if you selected YouTube here, then you would be able to populate that content inside on top of that experience. I'm going to do the same kind of deal here with the video and the postcard, just so you guys can get the concept. So these are some file formats that you're going to see pretty much across the board. That GLB file is going to be popular. You're going to see that pretty often. Some of the file types that you would typically find for 3D printing, you'd think would be popular, but with augmented reality, not so much. So oftentimes these companies are kind of requiring a little bit different format, and GLB is probably one of the more popular file formats, including, your zip files that are going to be loaded and unpacked. And that may include some animation and some textures and things of that sort. So Sketchfab and Google Poly are going to be, again, something that you're going to see pretty often. I mean, that integration is really wise for the company and really helpful for you, because if you don't have the content already pre-built, but you want to have the experiences layered on, you can absolutely go find content that's already been built and just layer on top of it. Unity here is not quite ready on their end, but as we can see in Arize, that was something that they already had integrated in there. So if they already were working on a Unity project, they were able to use it. So, I may just show you a Poly, how to go poly.google.com. Since Deborah's on here, Deborah taught me a little trick about Google that is kind of cool. Everything prior to google.com is going to identify. So gmail.google.com, well, YouTube, but it will just redirect you to YouTube. You can go everything that was prior to, in this case, Poly is one of their platforms, and poly.google.com is the way that you're going to find it. And then there's some really cool ways of finding some neat things that maybe you wouldn't know. So if you came over here and you were looking to see your calendar, if you wanted to find Meet, I think it's meet.google.com. So all of that there is poly.google.com is where you're going to find that. Now, if all you typed in was Google Poly, you'd still be able to find it in your search. So here you're going to find a lot of those low poly 3D objects, and meaning that it's not a huge file for it to deal with. And that's going to function best. It's going to be a quicker experience, and it's going to be what's pretty widely accepted by these different platforms. So I'm going to take just one that looks pretty cool, Journey to a Galactic Island. That sounds fun. So I can take that, and once that loads, I need to make sure that that image is something that is, let's see. I want to make sure that that image is possible to pull from. So I'm going to look up my name just to bring in an object that I know I've done. This might be some of my, it's bringing me into Tour Creator. Okay, that's all right. So I'll just grab one of these objects here. Halloween, Jack Pumpkin, sounds good. And what you're going to do is you're going to then take that, just like you saw with that turkey, and you're going to copy that link. And then I'm going to come up to Arloopa. And if I choose Google Poly as the experience on top of that trigger image, then I can paste inside of here. Okay, and this is not a suitable format. So that's kind of some of the problems that you might run into. And sometimes different creators will not let you use their content, reuse their content for things. So I'm gonna try this one. Let me pull it from up here. Let's see if it lets me use it. May not. That's okay. We'll go back and we'll just add the video. So there are going to be different pieces that will allow you. And sometimes this does get stuck. I've noticed that once it says it doesn't work, that I have to go back and then go back in and try it again. Otherwise, it always says everything doesn't work from that point forward. So if I went back into Poly, it's possible it would work now, but just to make it easy. All right. So I'm going to browse for the video file because that's what I selected. And I'm just going to again say postcard here just to make it simple. This is that video that goes on top of the postcard. And then my marker image, my trigger image. And let's see if it populates here. And once I select that, it will load. And then I'm going to choose next. Now up at the top, if you noticed on Arize, it had 3 different steps. This one's a little bit different because you can customize something here. So what I like about this is that you can layer where you want it to be instead of it having to identify where to place that. So if you really need to make sure that this is perfect, then I can match that up a little bit more perfect. Whereas on Arize, I didn't have those options. I couldn't customize that. I can also, really be specific about where I'm placing that. So if I wanted that video to, again, what I was talking about earlier, if I had it just that video placed on one spot, that's possible too, as opposed to the whole thing. All right. And then I would choose publish. I'm not going to publish this, but Arize and Arloopa both require that they authorize that first before. So I'm going to go back to this presentation because I want to see what you guys have a chance to experience But once that's done, I noticed Arloopa took a long time at first because they were still doing a lot of back end work on the platform. And now they're pretty consistent. Within about 24 hours, you'll see that actually get accepted and published. Arize took a little bit longer. I think they have less people on their team working on this particular project right now. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Arloopa app with you. Once I open up the app, then we're going to have some different content that they already have available, which is pretty cool. They already have a lot of different things available for classrooms, which I really like. Even specific, to something that could be connected to the classroom that's really helpful, like science and technology. Now, if I come down to scanner down at the bottom, so we went to a camera on Arize, but we're going to do scanner. You're going to see that my camera is populated. I've given it, authorized it to do that. And it's looking for an image, that barcode. And my image on our screen happens to be ISTE, which is coming up here really soon. Hopefully you guys are able to make it. And then it will populate. And then what you're going to find is that you're going to see the globe on top of that. So if you need to scan a QR code first, which I actually have available on my website, on the blog, you can do that. And then it will give you a little bit more information that I've added to this. Or you can just have that Earth experience that you should be able to scan and see here. So hopefully you guys are following along. I'm dying to see, I'm seeing so many different responses in the chat, and I see some questions in the Q&A. So I'm super excited to see what you guys are saying. And I know we're at number 3 and we literally have 13 minutes. So I'm going to try to get through as much as I can. Okay, Assemblr. Now the next 2 that I'm going to show you are not web-based. They're actually applications that you have to install on your computer. So Assemblr is one of them. It's been around for a little while, but their Assemblr Studio is kind of their new version of what you can do and create. So I can't show you without stop screen sharing and re-screen sharing. So I'm just going to talk to you about why this is a little bit different. With Assemblr, you literally open up the application. Again, you have to have it installed. All those steps are all on my blog on the website. But you have to install the application on your computer. So what does that mean for our students that have Chromebooks? This is not the resource for them. But if you do have a computer, I will tell you that Assemblr does a really great job with a lot of very cool 3D objects. Out of all the tools, I want to say Assemblr is my favorite with the content that they actually have in their library. So in the past 2 ones that we just explored, you can see that it was pulling from somebody else's library. But what you're going to find in this one is that they actually have a library available to you of 3D content that you can pull in and load onto your scene. Now, my trigger image in Assemblr is this QR code here on the right-hand side. Once you scan that in Assemblr, you're going to see the scene that I created. I was able to use, and well, let's do it right now. Hopefully you've had a chance to download the app. Assemblr has a bunch of other AR content in here as well, not just building your own. So you can go in, and I love the fact that it is all EDU. That is very helpful for our classrooms. And then you can see some of the content that you can go in and explore right now. Some pretty cool things. Then down at the bottom, if you choose scan, what you're going to have to do is scan this QR code here on our screen. So right here, and then it will say loading the project. Please wait. And then you're going to see the little Assemblr guy come out and start loading all of this. Now I'm going to move down my screen. This might be helpful for you, is to make your screen a little bit more flat as you experience it. So by laying it a little bit flat, it makes it a little bit easier for you to see from different angles on your mobile device. Again, many of these things, we're doing this on the computer for convenience, but many things that we can do with this is actually having it loaded and printed so that image is already available for students to scan in the class. It's going to ask you if you want to see this horizontally or vertically. Now on a computer, the ideal for me is to see it vertically, and that would be the ideal for you too. So you're actually going to be able to see this from a much better perspective without having it lay flat, which is how I created this, to lay on that trigger image. Assemblr does let you purchase trigger images. I paid, it was $3 for another trigger image. But in order to be able to see somebody's trigger image, you actually have to follow, you have to go in and find them. So for convenience, it is so much easier and it's free. I can go in and create these types of experiences and it be loaded without a trigger image at all, just using their QR code that they've given you. So that is Assemblr, and it's fun, and I really like their objects. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of resisted just because of the whole purchasing a trigger image, but I'll tell you that I really enjoy it. I feel like they have the best 3D content out there available in their library, which makes it super easy for classrooms to create good stuff. EyeJack is another application you have to download on your computer. It is very, very simple, but it is also very, very limited. So as of today, and I know that they've been working on something a little bit more robust for education, but as of today, EyeJack has a product that you install on your computer. Again, not the application you want to have for students on Chromebooks, but you would install the application on your computer. And once you install it, it's going to walk you through some very simple steps. And once you go through those steps, it says, 1, what is your trigger image? 2, what is the video? All you can do is load a video. It doesn't even let you place it where you want it. It stretches it to fit that image. So what you want to make sure to do is have the same proportion in both the trigger and the video. That way it's not trying to stretch to fit on top. And once it says, okay, 1 trigger image, 2 video on top, 3, it gives you an option to add some audio. So if you wanted to talk through your experience or add an audio overlay with it, so you hear some music, maybe some ambiance music if you wanted to. I've never used that because if I've ever loaded a video, it already had audio in it. So I didn't need to separate the two. And then 4, it's ready to publish. Now what it's going to do is it's going to give you a QR code that they have to scan first, and then the image that they can scan later. What I like about EyeJack is it's extremely simple for anybody to use, and it's very consistent. So that's where you're at. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna open up that EyeJack app. Once you load it, I will tell you that the feed is not education appropriate. I will say you never know what you're gonna get. Right now it looks pretty good. I did give them a lot of feedback on that. But their app, as you can see here, is preference for art. So what you're going to see is a lot, and art could be beautiful and it also could be super inappropriate depending on what group you have in there. But what you're going to want to consider is how you're using this technology, how it can be most beneficial, what you have available to you. And then at the bottom, you have a little eye, the same image you see next to EyeJack on our slides. When you select that, it's going to open up your camera. First thing you want to do is scan the QR code above that postcard. And once you scan that QR code, you can then scan the postcard. This may be a little bit more challenging. So now you can hear my audio. As long as you keep that in view, you should be able to see that postcard come to life. Now you can capture this of what you're seeing right now by tapping that circle, or if you hold it down, it will actually also capture, well, it just wants to capture a video, which is fine. And then it will load onto your device and you can save it there. It's picking up your audio too. So EyeJack, I think, is pretty simplistic. You can use it for some cool things. People have done some really neat things with it, but it's also the most limited out of all the tools. Okay, this is one of my favorites. And the reason being is, what do you notice about this slide? There's no QR code to download any apps. And the reason being is that MyWebAR is completely browser-based, like we found with Arize and we found with Arloopa. But you're going to also notice something else on the app side too. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to MyWebAR, and move some of this stuff out of the way. We're going to go ahead and log in. I'm going to log in. You'd create an account. And once you log in here, you're going to see the different experiences that you can build and create. This is going to look pretty similar to what I was looking at with Assemblr. So when I choose add new project, wow, testing one. Okay. So here we're going to be able to do a couple things. The free version lets you do the QR code tracking, or you can do the world tracking. Remember the surface tracking, or you can do an image, trigger image. And then this SLAM experience is like the overlay on the world surface, very similar to this one right here. And so this QR code is the free version. If you have a paid for version, you can create it on an image. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like for an image. Same concept as what we did with the postcard. I would give it that image that it's going to layer on top, or I can create an experience. I'm going to go ahead and choose upload image. It's going to give me my platform here. Now I can zoom in and I can zoom out. I can tilt and turn and adjust and modify. They also have a library. So I'm going to come up here to the 3D models. I can upload my own. I love that they have a convert your file, because all the different file types that you might have, you can come over here to convert your file and it will convert it to the right file format for them to accept. And you can see the 4 that they have listed here: the OBJ, DAE, FBX, and then GLB. And so that is going to be those common file types. OBJ and GLB are probably your most common. FBX is starting to become a little bit more common too. But here we're going to see that, you know, the majority of the time, those are the file types. But if you don't have that file type, you can go to that, convert your file. It will pull you over to a website. It will convert it for you, and then you can load it in. You can also come over here to their content. Now, I do like their library, but it's a lot more elementary than what we saw with Assemblr. So the animals that you might see on there is going to look a little bit more animated and not as realistic. But I'm going to go ahead and just add this gorilla. What you're going to also find is these objects are not animated. Here we are. So some of the things that you're going to notice on the right is where I can change the position of my gorilla. I can also drag by my arrows here where I want to place them. There we go. So I'm happy with that, although I can add a bunch of other different objects to the space. One of the things that you're going to start seeing down here is some more options. These are all going to be coming here soon, adding a hologram on top, or adding some sound, or adding some buttons on here. This is all going to be really cool stuff when that's all updated and ready to go. So once it's done, I'm going to get a QR code and I'm going to let you scan this. Now, all you have to do is grab your camera if you have an iOS device or a QR code reader. You're going to scan that and it's going to bring you to the web. You don't have to download an app for this. You have to give access to the camera every single time. Let's see if it, go ahead, point the camera over the image. Oh, then I'm going to give you the image because I made a trigger image. Now, if I would have kept it just the QR code, you would have had no problem seeing this. But I'm going to give you this image here. So it wants to see that postcard of what I added. I'm trying to get mine to populate right now. Sometimes it wants just directly in the center of this, but I'm trying to scan off of a bunch of reflecting lights on my screen right now. Okay, I'm going to go back. But what I'm going to do is give you this experience here off of just a QR code. So, you know, I had you use an image right now when I just made that gorilla, but instead go ahead and just do a QR code reader for this, or just use your camera, give access to the camera, and you should see your globe, and you should see ISTE underneath. I put some kind of elementary letters. As long as you keep that QR code in view on your mobile device, you should be able to see all of that come to life. So that's done completely on the web. That required no app to download, and that is browser-based augmented reality fully. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of that available and possible. I'm so excited to share this with you. I'm so excited Deborah's on right now, because Deborah is part of this. But I have my new book coming out, The Immersive Classroom. Every single page that has an image in this book, from the front cover to the back, everything comes to life, is interacting, is bringing you to an experience. Everything is interactive. So I am so excited, because this goes into the depth of using this technology. This isn't just what is it, how do you use it, why do you use it? It really goes into how we're using this with our diverse learners, and really customizing and personalizing this for our students, and looking at giving access to all of our students. So you're going to see a lot of different things, stories in here. I feel like this is good, definitely taking immersive technology to the next level. And this one's on pre-order right now for the Immersive Classroom. I would love for you guys to check it out, and I cannot wait for this to come out. And I promise I'll let you know when it's officially out on ebook. And again, I have Deborah in here listed for tour creator, which is why I need to talk to her, because there's been lots of updates. So we will be looking forward to that, and I hope that you guys have a chance to check that out. Just a reminder again, my website, arvrandedu.com, and make sure to subscribe and follow on social channels. And I certainly want to go through your Q&A here, as well as looking at Q&A on, let me just make sure it's not already on YouTube. Let's see. Okay, got it to work, awesome. Top-down view of bird's nest with the turkey, right? Yep, you got it, Andy. It does take zip files. So OBJ is pretty common and pretty typical, so you should be able to get that to work fine on most of these. A written tutorial. So I love the fact that you said that. That written tutorial, anonymous attendee, is on the website. So it's on my blog. Everything that I just shared is literally written down verbatim for you to go back. It literally says step-by-step instructions for you to go back through 1, 2, 3 links for you to go back and explore. Oh, good, Andy, got it on pre-order. I'm so excited. So hopefully that answers those questions. If there's something more that I did not address that you guys need me to, I'd be happy to go through that. And I just want to make sure on YouTube, if there's anybody that had a question. Perfect. Nope, no questions there, but I did see some responses. Great. And again, thank you all so much for joining in. It is 9:04. I'm a few minutes after, but I appreciate you all joining in and being part of this webinar tonight. I have this recorded. I'll be sharing this out for you to go back and reference to, as well as, you know, just again, emphasizing that that blog is going to be a great resource to reference back to for these tools. And if there's something that I missed or something that you're doing with these incredible tools, I'd love to see it. Please tag me on social media so I can share it out with others and we can all learn together. I am going to be watching for social media from the time we started our webinar till now. And I will be following up with the winner and getting in touch with you by direct message. So if you're not following me on Twitter, then I would love for you to follow me so that I can get in touch with you and let you know that I have some great stuff. So I did not see any questions in the chat, unfortunately, but if there's something that I missed and you really have that question, feel free to follow up with me on the website, on social media, by email. Any of those are great. And thank you all so much for joining in tonight and being part of this. I hope you all have a great Wednesday evening.